Okay, so I'm implementing this timestamp system with where the client and server each have a timestamp of when a value was last changed, and this is to fix a bug where sometimes a value is changed on one end, server side or client side, more recently than a value change for the same attribute that was changed on the other end but made at an earlier time, but gets sent through this the network and received and applied after. So sometimes a more recent proper change would be overwritten by a change that was made earlier in time but was received later in time, if that makes sense. I'm quite positive that's what's happening here, where I have this bug. So we created the time dictionary. This checks to see if the current the server side value change time is earlier than the just received client side time change. If the change on the client was made later, then it will change that attribute, but if not, it won't, because that's an old change which has been overwritten. Although I'm just trying to think, is there any, will that like create a bug? So if like we changed a, no, I don't think so. I think that's right. If any value is changed at a later time than it was last changed and is sent through the server, I would think that, yeah, I think that's right. Okay. Alright, now what do I have to do? Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna test it. Let's see. So the value that I'm testing is changed here. Progression text. We get the snapshot of it, which we don't have to have 2 and 1. We can just use one value. Time progression text changed. And let's see where it's changed here. Okay, so the actual moment it's changed is way down here. So we'll be comparing those two values when it's changed here, and then whenever it's changed here. I don't think that actually fixed what I thought it did. That's like my caution comment out protocol. 6 of those. Okay. Alright. So let me see. Whenever it progression file is connected to server side. So whenever I change this value, time progression text changed here. Okay, so our dictionary. Okay, and we have to have. All right, so the key is gonna be progression text, and then the value is going to be self dot time progression text changed. And we can just short this to be time progression text changed. Oh, no, that's not right. This is supposed to be current game. Just time progression. No, we can just put progression text like that. We don't even. That's short and sweet. Okay, so that key looks up current game time progression text. Just gonna change that to be just put what was that again? Time progression text. Just make sure it's right. Okay. No, I'm not sure if I should even have this as could just have this be I could have that just be in the client, all of them, for like player, client, for player, game, all the different attributes in one dictionary and client. Well, I do have that dictionary there. This is just the value this is just the value associated with the key. So I think that's fine to do it that way. I don't know how else I would do it. I would have to like here in game, whenever it changes the value, I have to have it set some value which has to be accessed. So yeah, I think this is right. Alright, so now okay, so now I have the time dictionary in client, which references the time progression text value from game, and alright, so and on this end, which is on the server side, well, this has to be put in the while loop because it will be updated. It won't show the most recent. And I'm quite sure that's the case, where if you have a let's say we have a class and then we'll just copy this. Oh, that's really all we need. Well, actually we want a dictionary, so we're gonna we'll have an empty dictionary, and then okay, and then if we alright, here we go. Okay, self.eggs, we'll change this to be just 1, and we'll also have a dictionary, and it will have self.eggs in it. Let's say eggs dot eggs. And then if we change see if we change okay. So if we change the value of eggs and then we want to print out oops, print out a class predict eggs and see what that gives us. Okay, so there you can see if you have a dictionary defined at a certain point in time, like this one, at this point in time when you define it, eggs equals 1. But if you change the value of the dictionary to be a different value, then when you print out that dictionary to look at that value that you just changed, you won't get the changed value, you will get the original value. You have to like reassign the dictionary because that's referencing old data. I learned that the hard way when I was in an earlier stage of the development process with this. So to fix it, you have to say a class. You just have to like do it again. You have to say a class dot a dict equals. You just do it again. You just reassign it. And now you see you get 2. See, before you got 1, now you get 2. You have to redefine it. So this helps me to remember things that I forget like this. Reminder that you always have to redefine or reassign dictionaries with values that are changed over time. Dictionary values do not quote-unquote auto update. Okay. Alright. Now, since we made the time progression to change, this needs to be changed here to be that. I think that's the only. Already changed it there. Yeah, I already changed it there. And I changed it in the client. Changed it here. Alright. Alright, so that is assigned when it's changed. So we can just leave it empty here. Now, we need it in the while. I'm trying to think, where do I need it here? Yeah, because whenever I change the game state here, that's when it changes the progression text. So we would need it here. So we can just put it right there. Oh. And we would put it after this, because that's when that's after. So also need that to say current game. Nope. Current game, current client. Think. Current client, yeah, it's a client attribute. Okay, now current client animation progression text is current game, not time progression text. So that value will be the time on this side when it was changed, which happens at that point in time, and then on the server side it will okay. Right, so it's updating that value, current game, time progression text at the time it changes it right after. And then in server, we want to make sure that dictionary also is updated. I'm trying to think of where I would need that, where I should put this line of current client. Where should I put that line? Because it has to be updated every time, or else it will be out of date. So when do we want, like, I could just put it at the top of this while loop, but I don't know if I should put it there. Okay, so this is the threaded client, so it's gonna change it. See, I want it to happen like as late as possible to make sure that it has the proper value, so that it's like in the right spot and not just like wherever. So in directory check, that is when it actually is checked in that function. So and it only is going to be checked whenever it's received. So we really only have to put this, yeah, we should put this in directory check, which checks the data. It checks the client data against the server side data for each, client, to see if anything's changed and updates all the stuff accordingly. Okay, so if receive equals true, that's the only time we want to do that. So we're going to put it right there, right before the line that checks it, and we'll put current client time tick equals progression text current game time progression text, and that should, at the time of this changing, should be this time. I want to say that's correct. Now I'm not 100% sure. Like, I need to implement it on the other side, on the client side. Need to implement this client side as well. Okay. Now, I think that's right. I'm not positive. Let me test it, see if it will work. so we're gonna run it, waiting for the other player to join the server. Then rerun this. What is your name? Okay. Okay, so we're getting Alright, I actually have to clear this up. Alright, let's open this up and let's see. I gotta clean this up. Okay. Okay, threaded client 1. Ink data, change game attribute dictionary. We don't want that. We can get rid of this. Well, no, I can leave that, I think. I think I can leave that. Because then it will show me like when it was sent through, and I can verify that it's working. So the problem is, from the client side, it sends a outdated version of progression text. They send to each other like at the same time, and one of them gets the right value and the other one gets the old value, and they overwrite it on the server side, because that's what it was technically changed on the client side, and that's how I have it set up. Anytime any values changed, you add it to this change game attribute dictionary, and it gets sent through the network, and then when it hits the other side changes its data accordingly based on that dictionary. But like I said, I had to implement this time system because it was applying a old value that was technically changed, but it was changed before a more recent change, so it actually shouldn't change it. Okay. Alright. We're looking for progression text. Here it is, right here. Progression text waiting for other player to join the server. So that's when it came through, because this right here, this PowerShell instance, this is the server instance, and there went all my stuff. But you could see that it changed it there, and we want that not to happen, because I was getting an exception, I think, from this if statement right here. So I normally don't get an exception for that. So waiting for the other player to join the server. Now let's join the other player, the other client. Now both of these should say what is your name, which they do, but it didn't last time, so I know there's like a race condition thing going on. And okay, like I don't remember it doing this. Alright. Why is it weird? Anyway. Okay, so like, wait, did it work? But okay, yeah, so progression text, it got sent through. It was sent through. Where is this coming from? I don't know. Somewhere it's printing that out. Where'd I do that? I'm gonna get rid of that. Oh. Oh. Okay. That is... I see. Why doesn't it... Oh, because no one's competing for the lock. Yes, yeah, I don't think, yeah, this isn't the proper way to use the lock. I learned about that recently, and I thought that anytime you called lock acquire, it would block that the lock blocked, but it doesn't. It only blocks if you're competing for the lock. If nothing else is competing for the lock, it doesn't do anything at all. And the purpose of this was to make sure all of this traceback this is a traceback print function for whenever I have an exception, whenever I catch an exception, and it's supposed to make sure all of this gets displayed in order without the other threads interfering with it, but you can see that it's not working as it's supposed to, because that's not how the lock works. I actually would need to use I would need to use, what's it, like join or something? Like, no, not join. There's a way to do it. Yeah, there's a way to do it, but I'm gonna go ahead and put a comment here. I'll change this at a later time. Since nothing is competing for this slot, it's useless. It doesn't block as I need it to, unless there is something else calling the block core. Fix this so that properly blocks all other threads. Okay, I'll fix that later. For now, I don't want to get too distracted. Okay, I think it actually worked though. Like, I'm not positive. It might have like worked this time, but there's a progression text which was sent from the client. This is the incoming data that was sent from the client. It attempted to change the progression text to waiting for other player to join the server, and instead of changing it, as you can, well, actually it hit an exception, so that started client 1, and then threaded client 1. Yeah, then there's the exception, which it's all out of order because it didn't block the traceback printout. In 247 in threaded client directory check 181 in directory check if current client.time dictionary item is less than client.time dictionary item. Okay, yeah, so it's a key error on that new snippet I added, which is in 181. Okay, so here I need to add in right here, we'll say try, and we just need it for this. But if we accept key error, then we want to, that means that the key doesn't exist either. Like, obviously I would have it implemented for all the different attributes. Right now I only have it for one because I'm just testing it out to see if it actually works. But normally it would have all those attribute values on the client side, since if they're like in that directory that it's iterating through, that's the changed game dictionary, changed game attribute dictionary, which like is what is sent over. That means it has been changed because they change it, that's why it's being sent. Then it would be in there, but it wouldn't necessarily be in there, the key that is, on the server side. So, which would mean that the value has never been changed on the server side, meaning that in that case we would want to apply the incoming data. I think that's right. So we would just skip that if statement and run that code. We also want to call our traceback print because that's very important, which is weird. It used to work, like it would block and work as intended. I did have a couple locks that I removed because I thought that they were like not working once I discovered like how locks are supposed to work, and now it's actually not working. Strange. Maybe they were working. I don't think they were, but anyway. So traceback print, we'll say threaded client current, got F, current client ID, and adder check key error. How do I format get adder from? I don't know. I must have been had that like that for when I was testing. I just keep it simple. Alright, that should be good. Alright, now we can see if it works, I think. So we're running the server. This one is the server right here. This is going to be client 1, and then this is client 2. So the server's running. We're going to run the first client, and I'm going to say no, so allow the server to keep going. waiting for the other player to join the server. That's what it should display. Now the second client joins. What is your name? This one is not working. It's just saying waiting for other player to join server. Was that the most recent call? All the way up. Make sure I'm looking at it right. Okay. Okay, so this is funny because I think now it's working. It is working on the server side, but it's on the client end, it's changed to the wrong progression text display. Start client 1. What is your name? Okay, so right here it goes to change the progression text, waiting for the other player to join the server. Because normally it's going to change all this to the values that are sent. But since it checks it, and that's threaded client 1, let's see if threaded client 1, because we have a printout for threaded client 1's progression text. Okay, I'm gonna disable that traceback print because I know I don't really need that to show. It's just taking up too much space. Let's do it again and run the first client, waiting for the other player to join the server. Now run the second client. What is your name? And you can see it worked this time, so there's some sort of race condition going on. Let's kill the server, go back up here, see what our printout is, if I might have waited too long. There we go. Alright, now back up to the top. Alright, right here. So threaded client 1, incoming data. Right here is the progression text, waiting for the other player to join the server. So it sent that through. Okay, here we go. We got an error. It's a different type of error. Okay, if current client connection system not supported between instances of int and none type. Okay. So it's actually not working because int is for the current client. So from the incoming data's value from this dictionary is still none. Hmm. Maybe this executes before this finishes but that doesn't make sense because there's only one thread. like it's not multi-threaded on the client side. It's just one thread. So when it changes this, when it changes the game state, waiting the other player, that okay, I see. That actually, it doesn't get changed until this is the draw function. This is the game's draw window function. So this is not going to work here, because when that next line runs this, it is still none, because the progression text doesn't get changed until we call draw window, which is like down here. So we have to actually change the progression text right here. So we're going to go back and right there, and so I can get rid of that. We're going to get rid of this line completely. And whoops. What did I do? What did I do? Alright. There we go. Now, we're going to put this that back how it was. Don't want to break it. Very easily broken. All this shit, you can very easily break it. So we're going to make the current game dot progression text equal that, and current game is it current? Yeah, I think. Then we call the dictionary so it has the most up-to-date value for this, otherwise it will have an old value. And I think this should fix the problem. Might be wrong. Alright, now we're going to run the second. What is your name? What is your name? That worked as it should. And then we go all the way up here. Make sure I'm at the right spot. All the way down and back. Okay. Progression text. Okay, so at this point it's what is your name for threaded client 1. And then, see, before it would start off as what is your name, and then it would send, it would receive the incoming data, this progression text value right here. And then, after that, it would be that value. It worked, dude. It worked, bro. That worked. So it filtered it out, because as you can see, threaded client 1 progression text after that point is what is your name. But now I noticed we had an issue with this client 1 where it was displaying, well, that might have been that might have been because of that bug like that I just fixed. This is complicated. It's like always hard to know what is the cause of the issue, because there's so many things that could be the problem. You have to be very careful before you make changes, because you might be addressing like the wrong problem or a problem that doesn't exist. Okay. So what can I get rid of as far as printouts? I can get rid of, I'm pretty sure this works. I'm going to test it one more time, and then I'm going to get rid of that printout. So the first client, waiting for the player to join the server, then we're going to run it again. And what is your name? What is your name? See, it's working for both of them. It's working for both clients. As it should, which is cool. What is your name? What is your name? That worked. Let's do it. I'm going to do it a couple more times to make sure it's working. I want to see if that bug pops up again, where it doesn't change to what is your name. Watch, I don't think it, oh, no it did. But see, you might go 10 times and it never shows up, and then next thing you know, you think it's gone, you move on to another section, and then it shows back up. So I'm just gonna keep doing this a bunch of times until it pops up again, because I don't really think that it's gone. I think it's just hiding. But usually if I go 10 times and it doesn't show again, that means it's actually fixed, which is what I want. There, got ahead of myself. Just getting to this point was very difficult. I've been working on this project for almost like exactly 2 years now. I started off with just like a text-based version, and it was my first like big Python project. I've only been coding and learning like programming and networking and stuff for like 3 years. Like, I mean, technically it's been longer than that, but as far as how much time I spent on it, it's more like 3, maybe 4 years total. 2 years of like serious work on it. And started off as a text-based game, and I think this bug is gone, dude. It's cool. As my first, like, I really didn't learn much else. I started off with Python, and I did the book. Oh, what's the name of the book I did? Learn Python the Hard Way. I went through that. It was pretty good. Like, it wasn't up to date completely though, so I probably could have learned like a better way. But overall, I did learn a lot, and you know, it got me through. I learned like some JavaScript. I did a couple like minor projects as part of the book. Like I made Connect 4. I made, what else did I make? Like, I learned Bootstrap. I learned Django and Flask. I learned CSS, HTML. I learned that as well. Yes, it was really JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and Python. But I really only spent a lot of time with Python. I just did a couple minor projects with the others with the front end stuff. Bootstrapping stuff was fun to learn. I enjoyed that. It was cool. I want to say it was JavaScript. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you like incorporated in your Python code. Maybe I'm wrong. No, it's been a long time since I did that. So I started off doing the text version of this game, which it's a Canasta card game. It's a game that my parents and grandparents would play. It's like Spades, but way more like intense and complicated. It's got a lot of rules, and you use 2 decks. It's like a long game. It'll take you a couple hours to play through. And I don't see this bug anymore, dude. We're at like 20-30 runs. It's gone. It's gone, dude. It's fixed. That's great. And I probably spent, once I started that project, like once I started this project, I didn't work on anything else. I started learning Git. I was learning PowerShell more. I spent like 1 year, roughly 1 year, I would say, finishing the text version of the game, which you played like by yourself, pretending to be 2 players through PowerShell, and it was all text based. There was no GUI or anything. And then I converted it to a 2D game using Pygame, which is what I still use, but it was still a mock-up game. There was no client server, there were no networks, there wasn't actually 2 clients. It was just like, if you had 2 people at your computer, you could technically play against each other, but it was more just like to learn and everything. And then after that, I finished it, converting it to the 2D, having to learn Pygame. It was very complicated. It took me a really long time. It took me like almost another like 6 to 8 months to do that. And then I decided I wanted to make it a real network based game where 2 clients can play against one another. And that's where I'm at right now, to where I had to like refactor everything. It was just this file right here, progression.py. It was just like the game loop, and this is how the game runs through. It's like 1,500 lines, and that's like the content of the game itself. It took me so long to do this. It was very difficult. So, but now I have a bunch of different files. I have a server, I have the client, I have the network. I've spent the last probably 2 months, 2.5, maybe 3 months, just working on like the networking server client side aspect of it, to make sure like the data is exchanged correctly. That's very difficult. That would probably have been the hardest part of the process. And then once I'm done with this, I can actually like go through and finish converting the actual game file. When I say finish this, I mean like ensuring the integrity of the data exchange system. I can finally go through, like I want to make sure clients are receiving and sending the proper data, and that everything is, it's not buggy. And then once I'm done with that, I can finish formatting this game file, which is still in the form of like a non-server, just like a mock-up version of the game. Everything except this function right here has not been converted. So I think like this was the final step, or the right what I just did was either the final step or one of the final steps. Every time I think I'm done, I'm not actually done. Once I finish that though completely, I gotta go through these 1,400 lines and finish converting this. Anyway, okay, so that worked. We tested it. Everything looks good. I'm going to update my, oh, that's right, I have to actually implement that on the client side. We want to make it so that whenever the client changes, receives something, they are also checking to see if that value they're about to receive for any given attribute is an out-of-date value. So we're going to go to dir check here and do, these are exactly the same. The client directory check and this, it's literally the exact word for word, letter for letter, it's the same exact function. And so I'm just going to add in the same exact, you have to be very careful. So if we're copying this, okay, no, this isn't, that isn't it. I also have to use the bathroom real quick. Okay. Now, okay. See, now whenever we also, since these two values are competing with one another, I'm not using two different values. I'm just using the same value, like one version on the server side, one version on the client side. We want to make sure that this time dictionary also has to stay up to date, and these values have to be proper, obviously. So whenever we okay, so whenever we want to keep the most recent value change time for each attribute. So in this instance, where the current client's changed time value is, which is this current client.timeDict of item, then we want to, okay, no, I'm sorry, I had that backwards. In this instance, if it meets this criteria of this if statement, that means that the current client, meaning the server side, this right here on the left side is the server side, this is the client side, this is the incoming data that was just received. So if this server side data, the time changed for the value is lesser, that means it's earlier than the incoming client side time changed value. This is the more recent change, so we want to change the current client time dictionary item, that which is the time that it was changed, that's the numerical value. We want to make that equal the more recent time, so that in the case that we go to now, if we change that same attribute right after, for whatever reason, and if we change it right after we do this, when we send it through on the client side, we're going to do the same process. We're going to check the received data, which is going to be coming from this side, and I need this value to be up to date. Well, okay, hold on. Actually, if we changed it on the server side after, we would update this value when we changed it. So I'm just thinking, like, do I need to update this? I'm not really sure. Let me see. Let me think about this. Okay, so like let's say well, no, I think we can. I don't think we do need to update that, because if we do change it on this side, on the server side, before we send it, like when we change it, we will also record the time. So I'm just trying to think of like any other instance where it might come about that I'm wrong and I would need to do this. Yeah, there's really not that many instances, right? Like either you're receiving it and it's been changed from the other side, or you're sending it and you changed it from your side. So it's, yeah, I don't think I actually need to change this, because if I do change it, let's say I change it again on the client side, but I don't, like I haven't touched it on the server side. So in that case, I would have updated the client's version of the value, and whether it was this value or this value, it would still be the later change, which would mean it would be applied and everything would work as intended. So I don't actually think this is necessary. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right. Okay. So alright, now I need to implement it on the client side. I'm just going to test it one more time just to make sure. Do a lot of testing every time like I step away or I change one line here or there. I want to make sure it's right. Alright, looks like it's still working. Alright, so I can get rid of these printouts, which is threaded client 1 current game.progression text. So where's that at? We can just copy it and look for it. And there it is. Get rid of that. And I think that's the only printout. Nope, we got this. Incoming data. We're gonna get rid of that. Get that out of here. And on the client side, we want to get rid of that. No. I did something wrong. There we go. Here it is. Get rid of that. And now our printouts should be cleaned up. Let me check it, see how it looks. Yep, that works. Okay. Alright, now I can do mirror this on the client side. Where is it? Right here. Alright. So we want to go to the dir check. Here we go. And just need to implement this client side as well. Okay, that's what I'm doing. I'll leave that there until I'm actually finished. So we're gonna copy this whole section right here, and that comes after if receives equal true. So between if receive and elif receive, between that takes that spot. Make sure I copied it, and we just copy this right over. Bloop. Now let me look at it and make sure it's proper. It should be, because they're exactly the same. Client. Try if current client time dictionary of item is less than client time dictionary of item. So that should be except key error. So that should be okay. So alright, that's right. Everything is working. Alright, let me make sure that this works. I didn't fudge anything. Awesome, dude. Awesome, dude. Alright, we're done here. I can get rid of this, I think. Okay. Okay. I can update my things to do. Update my dev log. Fixed bug associated with client ID. Actually, fixed bug associated with I did fix that as well. Fixed bug associated with client ID. Made a minor mistake in the original refactor. Fixed discovered and fixed bug which caused old data to overwrite new data in certain send, receive instances by implementing a timestamp check in dir check for both client pi and server.py. Whenever an attribute is changed, a dictionary containing the timestamp is updated at that moment with the attribute as the key. The timestamps are then compared against one another. When server client receives data. Okay. Only made tested a skeleton version of the system, and it seems to work 100%. Alright, so that's done. Wait, no, that's client 96. Okay, can get rid of this old comment. Now I also did that. Also completed the game state for waiting other player. Tested and working 100%. Alright. Cool. Make sure that's all good to go. A bug just flew in my nose. Damn. Alright. That's done. Updated that. Alright. Now, what's next? Hmm. Alright, now I have to change. I have to add in all this code for every time an attribute is changed. So I'm a little bit confused as to like what my next step should be. Okay. So currently we only implemented for progression text. This dictionary has to include all of the attributes. Okay. Has to be finished. All attributes that are changed throughout the game have to be added to it, implying there also has to be an associated variable with each attribute. I.e. time project. Okay. Alright. Why is this? Why do I have this down here? Oh, did I also need it for if receiving is false? daughter, she's got little bitty hands. Got a fan. She was getting by the fan. Have to make sure little Diddle doesn't stick her fingers in that fan. Alright, let's see. Okay, so if receive is false, which means I'm about to send something, do I need to do anything with the time? I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think so. Yeah. So I can get rid of that. And now. Okay, so how do I get a list of all the attributes that need to be changed? How do I do that? I need a list of attributes. All these attributes that need to be changed. Which would... Like, man. That's so much extra text to write. Like, I could... Instead of changing the value wherever I change it, like right here, and then writing this line, like every single time I change the value, because that's like a lot, like a lot. That would add like hundreds of lines. I could make all of these calculated properties, all these attributes to be calculated properties, and I could just make it to where it's automated so that whenever I change the progression text, it also changes the time progression text value. It, like, you know, runs that line without me having to type it out every time. I mean, it's still like work, but it's less lines. I feel like that's the way I should do it, but I don't know if, like, I don't necessarily want to do it that way, but I'm pretty sure like that's the way it should be done. So I think I'm gonna do that way, because I don't want a bunch of lines, like a bunch of extra lines all over the place. Because in progression pi, stuff is changed, like this, there, it's changed there, it's changed here, this is changed there, this changed, like, it's a constant changed, this is changed, every time I move a card, like, well, that's gonna be really hard. I don't even want to think about messing with that. I haven't gotten to the cards yet with this system. I haven't gotten there yet. I'm afraid to get to that point. Anyway, so I think this is proper. I think I should do it this way. So we're going to make it so that progression text, let's see, progression text, define progression text. Okay. So whenever we change the progression text, we will just run this line. Lots of it is already calculated properties. And we will, bam, we will say self dot time over x equals time. every time it's changed, and we want to actually make that happen like first. Sets the time at which the value was changed and checks the prior values of the fresh text. I think that sounds good. Now let me make sure that works. How I did it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Why is that not working? Oh no. Oh. That's not supported between instances of none type and integer. Server. What happened? Okay. 250 and 30 client. This is in what file? Server. 250. That's in dir check. For game receive 183. Okay, this is the same one I had before, but I thought I fixed that. Not supported between instances of none type. So in this case, this is none. In this case, the current client dot tone dictionary of item is set to none. Why is that? Oh, okay. That's because I'm kind of confused because I don't know why that part would be running if it hasn't already started comparing. Like if it hadn't already ran this section of code, which would make this value not. Oh, okay. I see. I see. This also needs to be deleted, but I think it's because like, hold up. So it equals none only before it's been assigned in game. Way up here. Yeah, so time progression text set to none, but that gets changed so why? See, the draw one was called Okay. So, okay, so it's comparing. It's comparing the progression text values, and this is still set to none. So I'm like, okay, so does that mean this is in the threaded client? Does that mean that this has ran before hmm. Current client.time dictionary of item. Okay. So this is the threaded client, and then progression is running in the main thread, and I'm guessing what is happening is before it gets to before it changes this progression text value, it is already trying to receive the sent. That just doesn't seem right, though. I mean, that's gotta be what's happening. It's gotta be. So race condition. Yeah, man, I'm pretty sure that's a race condition. I don't know how that happened, though. That's weird. I'm like, is that because of that one line that I just took away? I don't think it was. I don't think it had anything to do with that line I removed. I'm pretty sure this is some sort of race condition that's it's a rare thing where before um, it executes this line, which updates this value that it said was none, um, right here, this current client.time dictionary of item, it said that was none, and the only way that could be none would mean that this line hadn't executed yet. But like that means the other client already sent its sent its value through, and it started to receive it. So I should probably add in like some sort of like check, like a lock, basically, like my own version of a lock, so that so that won't happen. So I will make it to where unless this line of code has been run, it should not I mean, that's very specific though. That's like a very specific thing to add in into like a function like this. Unless it was like a lock that I used in other places where like a race condition was occurring, which would just be like a boolean, like if this lock is false, don't do this yet. Because if that happens later on in the game, that would cause the assignments to be incorrect, because it would, this value, it would not be none, it would just be an older, non-up-to-date version, which would always result in this value being the new value, when in fact this should be a later value. Like, so we have to make sure that before we execute this section, we're making sure that this value, which is the timestamp on the server side, is up to date. So I'm just not exactly sure how to do this. I think the best way, I don't want to just like slap a quick fix on it. I want to do it correctly so I don't have to do it twice. I would have to, I'd have to have some form of a lock or something to where it would be like if, or we can just add it as an and. We can say if this, well, no, we actually want it to be to precede it. So if we'll just call it something, current client dot lock is equal to false. False would be unlocked, like not locked. Then you can do this. But if it is locked, we just, no, see, that won't work though, because, well, actually it would. Yeah, it would work, because I said a different thread. We say while current client lock is equal to false. I mean, but what if it doesn't, like, what if it's so fast that it okay, like if it's so fast, then all right. If it was, let's say it changed the value on the client side and then it sent it through, and now it's running this dir check, it's receiving it, it's running this dir check. When do we call the lock? Like, when do we lock it? When do we say See, then like it just starts to become arbitrary. Like when do you? Because if I apply the lock here, that's not necessarily going to fix the problem, right? Because I don't know if this is quote unquote early enough to. Hmm. Okay, so I'm like, is just putting that right there, like, would that fix it? I just don't think so. Um, hmm. I definitely need to put this down as a bug, though, for sure, so I don't forget about this. This is a serious bug. This could become a huge problem. Currently, they're experiencing a rare race condition wherein check is being run on the server side and the timestamp for the server side is being checked before it has been updated. But I'm like, okay, so that means the client sends. Okay, no, sorry. So this means the client changes a value, sends it through, check is called. I just don't understand. Hold on a second. How could it be that how wouldn't that just mean, okay, now yeah, this is no big deal, right? Because that would mean that if it did come through and let's say it hasn't happened yet, it hasn't run this line yet. If it hasn't run this line yet, then that means if it hasn't run this line yet, then that means whenever it does run this line, it will be caught as an updated value in check before a send, which will cause it to be to say the client has been changed. After it's just like any other change that's made, you know, it technically happened before the first change. Before the server side change, so it should be applied, but then it will be like immediately overwritten once this line, once that line does run, because it will be detected because it doesn't match the prior directory, and it will be updated accordingly, and then changed on the server side, and sent through and changed on the client side. Yeah. Okay. So there's no bug. I'm like tripping. I was getting scared for a second, but like, I don't know. I may be wrong, but I think we'll be okay. But I do have to add in an exception for a type error. So in this case, it would be except type error. And what we want to do here is we're gonna first put our traceback printout. We're gonna put type error here, and then we want to well, it will never be a none type on the client side. It would only ever be none type on the server side, meaning that that value's never been changed yet. And in that case, that would also, we would still apply the changes. Can I just do except error comma type error? I guess it doesn't matter. Like, I like to save lines though. I actually think I'm gonna do that if I can. Except key error type error, and we just do it like this: key error type error. I don't know if that'll work. I think it will. If that's proper syntax. I'm not positive. Uh-oh. What happened? Oh, it is. That is bad syntax. Yeah, I don't want to just catch every type of error. Like, I mean, I would think that's the only two types of errors that would occur. But you never know for sure, right? Like, you never are positive, so I don't want to assume shit and be wrong. So I'll just keep my extra 4 lines for now until I'm more confident. Alright. So yeah, I need to continue to finish this this time dictionary and creating all the values, and I need to make it to where they're applied via calculated property. What you doing, Goose? What you doing, Goose? You're climbing. Be careful. You ready for lunch? No.
I already ate lunch.
You already ate lunch? I gotta go eat lunch. I'm going to eat lunch.
I ain't eating lunch. I already ate lunch.
Oh yeah? I'm hungry. I gotta go eat some lunch. Lunch. That's right, lunch. Alright, so we're gonna break for lunch. I'll come back and do that.
Oh, yes.
See ya.